If you're out in the woods at night, there are a few things you should never do. If you hear something, don't answer it. If it sounds like someone you know, don't follow it. And if something starts moving outside your camp, pretend you didn't hear it. Welcome to Campfire Static, where the woods watch back. Story 1. Aaron didn't think much of the drive into Pennsylvania. It was the kind of rural stretch where the trees leaned too close to the road and the sky felt farther away than it should. No billboards, no noise, just miles of quiet settling into the tires as much as the driver. He was visiting family, a small town tucked so deep into the hills it barely appeared on maps. The kind of place that didn't bother with a stop sign in the center because everyone already knew when to stop, or when not to. He first noticed something off an hour before arriving, a hitchhiker at the edge of the road. Still enough that Aaron almost missed him, thumb out, head slightly bowed, like he had been waiting longer than the road itself. Against better judgment, Aaron pulled over. The passenger door opened slowly. The man sat without looking at him. After a while, Aaron asked, "Where are you headed?" The man turned his head slightly. "Same place you are." Aaron gave a short laugh. "That's not helpful." The man nodded once. "Town like that doesn't like questions," he said. "Just answers it hasn't given you yet." "What town?" Aaron asked. No reply. The man only looked forward past the windshield. "They'll look at you a long time," he added. "Don't mistake that for welcome." A mile later, Aaron glanced over. The seat was empty. No door sound, no movement. Just gone. He told himself he imagined it, but he didn't forget the words. They'll look at you a long time. By the time he reached town, the feeling had settled in. Not fear, just awareness. His mother greeted him on the porch like nothing was wrong. Warm, familiar, almost too normal. His aunt hugged him tightly, then held him a second longer than needed. "You look tired," she said. Inside, everything felt the same. Same furniture, same smell of wood and cooking oil, same photos on the wall, slightly more faded than he remembered. But the conversation kept circling something unspoken. His uncle finally said it at dinner. "This town isn't like others." Aaron smirked. Every small town says that. His uncle didn't smile. "Most don't mean it," he said. Silence followed. His mother set her fork down. "They notice people here," she said. "Notice how?" His aunt answered. "Not like strangers," she said. "Like decisions." The word lingered. Decisions. The next day, Aaron went into town alone. At first, it seemed normal. Quiet streets, slow movement, close buildings. Then he noticed the pauses. A man outside a store stopped talking just to watch him pass. A woman adjusted her path to follow him with her eyes. Two teens on a bench went silent as he crossed the street, like his presence interrupted something unspoken. No one greeted him. At one point, a child on a bike slowed beside him, staring openly, then rode off backward for a few seconds before turning forward again. Aaron told himself it was nothing, but the feeling stayed. That night, he finally asked, "Why does everyone look at me like that?" His mother didn't hesitate. "They're deciding." "Deciding what?" She paused. "If you get to stay." Aaron laughed, but it didn't land. "That doesn't make sense." His aunt spoke quietly. "That's because you think leaving is always an option." The room went still. That night, the house felt different. Not louder, more aware. Aaron woke to footsteps in the hallway. Slow, measured, stopping outside his door. No knock, just presence. In the morning, his family was already up. Too early, too quiet. His mother was packing a small bag, avoiding his eyes. "We think you should leave today," she said. "What?" Aaron froze. His uncle finally spoke. "It's looking at you differently," he said. Aaron looked between them. "You're talking like it's a person." His aunt shook her head. "Worse," she said. "It's a town that agrees." Silence stretched. Then his mother looked at him, something in her face breaking through. Not fear, resignation. Like she was no longer fully allowed to choose. "You have to go now," she said. He didn't argue. He left quickly, bag in hand. No one followed him out, but from the porch they watched. Not waving, not stopping him. Just watching like something in them had already stepped back from the decision. He never went back. Never heard from them again. At first he tried calling. The numbers stopped working. Messages failed. Eventually, even the memory of the town felt like it resisted being reached. And sometimes, late at night, Aaron still hears the hitchhiker's voice. "They'll look at you a long time." And he wonders what it means when a place doesn't stop you from leaving, but makes it feel like you were never fully outside it to begin with. Story 2. Jim lived far enough back in rural West Virginia that the roads stopped feeling like roads and started feeling like suggestions. Past the last paved stretch. Past the mailboxes that leaned like tired men. Past the kind of quiet that didn't feel empty, just watchful. His farm sat in a bowl of Appalachian hills, surrounded by dense forest that had been there longer than anything Jim could trace back in his family. People in town liked to say things about those woods. Old things. Things you didn't call by name. Jim didn't talk about it much, but he respected it. That was the rule out here. You don't bother the forest, and the forest doesn't bother you. For years, it held true, until it didn't. It started with knocking. 3 slow hits against the side of the barn one night when the wind wasn't moving, and nothing living should have been close enough to make it. Jim stood in the doorway with a flashlight and didn't call out, just listened. Nothing answered. He told himself it was wood shifting, animals, old nails working loose. But he checked anyway. Nothing there. The next night it came again. Knock, knock, knock. Not frantic, not random. Patient, like something trying to be polite in a language it barely remembered. Jim stepped outside that time. The air was cold in a way that felt wrong for the season. His flashlight cut through the dark yard, catching fence posts, tall grass, the edge of the tree line. That's where he heard it. Footsteps. Heavy. Deliberate. Not deer, not bear. Too upright. Too steady. They moved just beyond the light, circling where he could almost see but never quite confirm. Jim didn't move. He just listened. Then the woods answered for it. A roar broke out deep in the trees. Not like an animal he knew. Not like anything that belonged in a biology book. It ripped through the forest like something tearing through the night itself. Branches snapped. Something massive crashed through undergrowth, moving fast, circling wider now, no longer hiding. The knocking stopped. The footsteps didn't. They came closer. Jim finally saw it, just at the edge of the light where the flashlight failed and the moonlight didn't help enough. A shape. Tall. Broad. Covered in hair that swallowed what little light reached it. It moved on 2 legs, but wrong somehow. Like balance wasn't something it cared to learn properly. It didn't step like a man. It planted itself like weight was the only rule it followed. Jim's breath caught, but he didn't run. Out here, running didn't mean much. The thing turned its head toward him, and roared again. Closer this time. The sound hit the barn walls, shook loose dust from beams, made the night feel smaller than it should have been. Then it charged, not at him, but through the tree line, smashing through branches like they were nothing more than dry sticks. And just as quickly as it came near, it stopped, turned, and vanished back into the woods. The morning after, Jim walked the perimeter of his property. No tracks made sense. No pattern held long enough to follow. But the forest looked heavier somehow, like it was holding something in. After that, it didn't come to the edge of the yard anymore. It stayed deeper, further back, watching, waiting. But it never truly left. On quiet nights, when the wind settles and the crickets go still for too long, Jim can still hear it. A distant roar rolling through the trees. Not close enough to see, not far enough to forget. And every time it happens, Jim stands at the window of his farmhouse, looking out into the dark line of Appalachia. Respect still holds. The forest still doesn't bother him. Not directly. But sometimes, he wonders if that's because it's waiting for something. After the first encounter, Jim started noticing patterns he didn't want to admit were patterns. The knocks didn't always come at the barn anymore. Sometimes it was the old shed out back. Sometimes the fence line itself. 3 slow hits spaced just far enough apart to feel intentional. And the sound of movement in the woods changed too. Like whatever it was had learned the shape of his land. One afternoon he drove into town for supplies and mentioned it casually at the counter. Just a passing comment about something big in the woods at night. The man behind the register didn't laugh. He didn't ask questions either. He just nodded once, slow, like he was confirming something he already knew but didn't want to be right about. "You ain't the first," the man said quietly. Back home, he started leaving lights on around the property longer than usual. Not because he thought it would help, but because darkness felt less like absence now and more like cover. And still, the nights carried it. Footsteps where there shouldn't be ground. Branches breaking, like something testing how much force the world would tolerate. And that roar, distant now but regular enough that Jim stopped calling it random. It came like weather, like something on a schedule only the forest understood. Sometimes, just before dawn, it would rise again deeper in the trees. A long, low sound that rolled through the hills and faded like it had never fully entered the world. Jim never told anyone again, but sometimes, at the porch edge, he feels it watching from the tree line. Out here, in the Appalachian dark, nothing that old ever really leaves. It just decides how close it wants to stay. Story 3. They call her Trail Mother, not because she asked for it, and not because she wore it like a badge, but because after years in the Smoky Mountains, she became the person others looked for when weather turned, when maps failed, when nerves cracked under tree cover and silence. She knew these trails better than most people knew their own neighborhoods. So when she set out for a simple weekend hike, nobody worried. Just a short loop, a little reset, in and out. The first day felt exactly like it should. Morning light spilling through the canopy in soft gold, damp earth, pine and leaf litter underfoot, distant chatter of other hikers passing in pairs, in groups, all moving with the easy rhythm of people who still believed the woods were just woods. She nodded at them as they passed. "Beautiful day," one said. "Always is," she replied. By afternoon, the trail thinned out. The sounds did what they always do, fade until only wind and breath remain. That was comfort to her. That was home. She made camp before dusk, not out of caution, but habit. Firewood stacked, water filtered, gear hung in the familiar order of someone who never wastes motion. The night was quiet. Too quiet, maybe, but she didn't name it as anything else. Morning came clean. Day 2 started wrong in a way she couldn't immediately explain. No storms, no injury, no missing gear, just a subtle shift, like the forest had angled its attention slightly toward her. At first it was small things, birds that stopped singing when she entered certain stretches of trail, a faint impression of movement at the edge of vision, just between trunks, just beyond certainty. She told herself what she always told newer hikers when they got spooked. Your mind fills gaps out here, that's all. By midday, she passed no one. That was unusual. By late afternoon, she realized she hadn't heard another human voice all day. Even the wind felt inconsistent, gusting, then stilling, like something breathing through the trees instead of around them. She checked her map. Correct trail, correct pace, correct direction. Everything was right. So why did it feel like she was being followed? She made camp earlier this time, not from habit, from instinct. That night, the forest didn't settle. It stayed awake with her. The fire burned low. Shadows stretched farther than they should have. Every crack of wood in the distance sounded deliberate. Then came the footsteps. Soft, slow, just beyond the edge of firelight. She froze, listened. Nothing. Then again, footsteps, circling, not rushing, not stumbling, walking like something that knew exactly how to move without being seen. "Hello?" she called. Her voice disappeared into the trees. No answer. Only the footsteps continuing, unbothered. She stood, firelight behind her, knife in hand, not raised, just present. "I'm not lost," she said into the dark. "I know these trails." A pause, then breathing. Not hers, not close enough to locate, but close enough to understand it had been there the entire time she hadn't noticed. Slow, patient, right at the edge of hearing. She turned sharply. Nothing, just trees. But the breathing didn't stop. It shifted position instead, like it was walking around her camp without ever entering it. She didn't sleep. Not really. Just waited through the night as the forest kept her company in ways she never asked for. By morning, the sound was gone. So was the sense of being watched. But Trail Mother had been on enough trails to trust one thing above all else. When something stops, it's usually because it wants you to move. She broke camp fast, didn't look twice at anything, just backtracked. Downhill, faster than usual. No stops, no detours. The forest felt normal again, almost polite, like nothing had ever happened. By the time she reached the trailhead, the parking lot looked unreal, too bright, too open, too honest after a night like that. She sat in her vehicle for a long moment without starting it, hands on the wheel, breathing steady again. That's when she saw it. In the tree line, just beyond where the forest met the edge of human space. A shape. Not fully formed, not fully still. Just enough to make her doubt every rational explanation she had ever trusted. It didn't step forward. It didn't retreat. It simply stood there, like it had followed her all the way out, and was deciding whether it was done with her yet. She started the car, didn't wait, didn't confirm, just left. Now she walks in parks, paved paths, open sight lines, places where the trees don't lean in so close. People still recognize her sometimes, still call her trail mother, but she just smiles politely and keeps moving. Because every now and then, when the wind hits a certain way, she can still hear footsteps that match hers, just out of sync. I hope you enjoyed this story. If you have a story that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand on end, share it here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps the channel and allows me to curate more of these stories for you.